All right, welcome guys, welcome to our general meeting, 7:45, of course. I'm glad to see y'all, right? We're already nearing the end of the semester. Hopefully y'all are doing good on your grades as well, right? Any midterms and possibly finals coming up. We still have a month, right? But it's good to be studying for those. All right, go ahead and sign in for this meeting, guys, and then just give me a thumbs up when y'all are good to go. While we're signing in, make sure to think about an outperforming moment that y'all have had. I think we're all good with the sign in, right? I think we're all good with the sign in. Awesome. So, today's general meeting agenda, Nathan's going to present. We're going to have our sweet spot, and then we're going to go over plentiful updates and announcements that we have for y'all, right? Dealing with elections, Costa Rica, as well as a scholarship for y'all dedicated members. Now, would anybody like to share an outperforming moment they've had? It could be recent, this past week. You could even go far back. Not sure, month, week, right? Anybody would like to say an outperforming moment? Just raise your hand, don't be shy. Y'all did good on tests, any homework, right? A project y'all had to do, any outperforming moments, guys? I know I had one, but I don't want to share it yet. Not yet, right? Anybody have an outperforming moment? MDs? Members? Cricket? All right. Yeah, outperforming moment for me. I ended up working with a group project for my computer science minor. And at first, kind of horrible, right? It was kind of a big mess. But, along with myself and another team member, we were able to kind of like lasso us back together, right? Small outperforming moment, right? But, with that, we were able to get it going. We actually did get a pretty good grade on our project together. So that was nice. Awesome. Yes.
I made my first Power BI dashboard.
First Power BI dashboard. Nice. Too many more. Here's too many more. Anybody else want to share an outperforming moment? Now that we're getting a little more social. Yeah, Ryan. Nice. Internship offer for next summer, right? Not even this summer, next summer. Awesome. Congrats. You did some claps. All right, I think that's enough outperforming moments, right? I had too many people raising their hands, so sorry I couldn't reach out to y'all. Now we're gonna actually have Nathan present now. He's gonna start with the quote of the day, and then what he has to teach us.
Okay, so for the quote of the day, a man who pays his bills on time is often forgotten. Try to make it relatable to credit cards, because if you pay on time, company doesn't really care about you. If the company knows you, that means you're probably not paying on time. So if you're forgotten, it's normally a good thing in this business. So just going to be a quick presentation over credit cards and credit scores, making it a little bit more relatable to us. I know some topics in the past have been a little advanced. Does everyone in here have a credit card? Use a credit card? Yeah, okay. So just quick overview, common misconceptions about credit cards. We'll do a little discussion about that. Debt to credit ratio, credit score, APR, give y'all some resources, and then touch on some current events as well. So first, common misconceptions. There are 6 myths. There'll be 4 on this slide, 2 on the next slide. And we'll just go through them. Myth number 1, the more cards you have, the worse off you are. Myth number 2, canceling your unused cards will help your credit. Myth number 3, you have to carry a credit card balance if you want to build credit history. And myth number 4, you have 1 credit report and 1 credit score. So all of those are false for a reason. So I'm going to give y'all about 5 minutes. I'm going to ask y'all to just get in little groups of 4. We can have that be myth number 1. We could have myth number 2 in the back corner. If y'all want to be myth number 3 in this middle rows, and then MDs if y'all can spread out. And then if y'all can take 1 and 4, that'll help. And then we'll do 2 and 3. So I'll give y'all some time, maybe like 5-ish minutes, see how long the discussion goes, and just figure out why each of these are false. And time will start right now. Okay, so hopefully y'all were able to discuss and figure it out. I'm gonna ask one person from each group to kind of explain why the myth is a myth. So we're gonna start with 1 and just go around all the way to 4. So from group 1, or myth 1, who wants to be able to explain why the myth is a myth?
So the more cards you have, the worse off you are. This is not entirely correct, not correct, it's myth, because it really depends on like your utilization rate and how fast you're acquiring these cards. If you have a pretty long credit history, you can have a lot of cards. So there's nuance to it. He's walking away, but I'm done now.
Okay, if you want to keep the mic up there and pass it to group two, I'll go over like each answer on its own. So number one, just to go over, yeah, there is no magic number to how many you should have. It's really just if you want to focus on rewards programs. Some of those are really beneficial for students. There's a lot of student credit cards that have fairly low limits, but they have a lot of rewards points, so like food, gas, things like that. So that is something y'all could look into, but it does really come down to you can have as many as you want. Can you pay them off on time? So myth number two, if anyone wants to explain why the myth is a myth.
We said it's a myth because, for example, if you have your first credit card for like the first 2 years and then you continue to get other cards afterward, but if you were to cancel, let's just say your very first card, it would shorten up your credit history. And so for the creditor, they're looking at us if you only have like 2 years of patience, so that will negatively impact your credit score.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Closing an account, like you said, it does hurt your credit score if it hasn't been open long enough. And then even if you have a long-term account, that looks good if you've been keeping up your payments, paying it off. So closing that could hurt your credit score because it makes your history look a little bit confusing. So if you want to head to myth number three, if any of y'all want to talk about why that's a myth.
So myth number three, I think we discussed that there's other ways to build credit right through like personal loans and I'm not sure what all the loans are, but like a loan for a car, a loan for a house, that doesn't have to strictly be a credit card. No, I don't really remember if in particular we might like just have like a current balance like outstanding all the time. So I just don't really clarify that. We'll clarify that.
Yeah. It kind of relates to myth number one, where there are multiple ways to build credit. So the ones I have down are student loans, credit cards, a home mortgage, or a car loan. Actually having only one type of credit or one type of loan can actually hurt your score rather than help it. So if you have like 5 credit cards, you're doing really well on them, but there's no diversity of your debt, of your credit, you could actually end up hurting your credit score a little bit. Again, it goes back to how responsible you are with it. So there's a term for people that carry their balance month to month, and they're called revolvers. Banks obviously love revolvers because they keep making that interest payment on them. But they're also the most riskiest since they're most likely to default on debt. So while they are typically the ones that the bank profit off the most, bank still takes risk from it. And then finally, myth number 4, if anyone wants to talk about that.
So one of the things I guess, we talked about was one very important credit score. Your credit score, I guess, it's mainly like on your like credit cards, and your credit report, it's more like it actually takes into account different loans and maybe other things that are affecting your credit.
Yeah. So there are 3 main credit bureaus: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Depending on which app or which credit card you go with, they'll use a different one. But there are some places that'll display all of them at the same time. And then there's also a thing called a FICO score and a Vantage score, which are the credit scoring companies. So that's pretty good. If one of the MDs could get the mic and then bring it back up here. There's just 2 more quick things that most people may believe, may have heard in the past, is that 1, you can pay someone to quickly improve your credit. Obviously, that's not true. It sounds too good to be true, and it is. There really is no way to quickly improve credit. It does take time. So if you fall into a bad place and you can't really pay off your credit, minimum payments are obviously the best thing you can do if you can't pay off the entire thing. But just being responsible in the future and making sure it doesn't go below that, it does make a difference in the long run. And a credit card only has 1 interest rate is also false. Certain interest rates may seem appealing when searching for a credit card, but this may be different because of things called a cash advance and a balance transfer APR, which we'll go over in a couple slides. So the next kind of big thing when it comes to credit cards, credit in general, is a debt to credit ratio. So what is it? It's basically how lenders determine how well you manage your credit card debt. So as you can see on the calculations on the left side, let's say you have a balance of 2,500 and a limit of 7,500 on card A, and it just goes down from there. If you add up all the balances and all the credits and then just divide it over each other, that is your debt to credit ratio. Lenders like it when you have below a 30%. That just makes you look good. It makes you seem like a third, not too much, not too little. It makes it seem like you're responsible with your spending. So that's the calculation. And then how does it impact your score? Like I said, that 30% mark is kind of the sweet mark. The lower the better. Obviously, lenders don't like when you borrow a bunch of money, but that 30% is pretty good. And other factors include type of credit, length of credit history, and recent credit inquiries. So now there's 5 things that go along with a credit score, and they're each weighted differently. So the first being repayment history. Like I said, if you really can't do it, make that minimum payment. It has the greatest impact on your credit score. Paying bills on time is key. One late payment won't hurt you too much, but if they keep adding up, if you keep racking up late payments, let's say you miss a month, you miss another month, it starts adding up. Credit utilization and debt is the next biggest thing, so that's a big 30%. Basically, the ratio of utilized credit to available credit, which is how I showed you how to calculate it on the last slide. If you're close to maxing out all your accounts, lenders may see you as extremely risky and financially overextended. Age of credit, not a huge factor, but still 15% is a lot. A lot of young adults that establish credit initially have lower scores due to an insufficient credit history. So when you open a credit card for the first time, if your parents haven't put you on a card, if you haven't really been attached to anything that requires a credit pull, credit check, your score and your limit are more than likely going to start off a lot lower than somebody like your parents or an adult that has that higher credit, that has that history. I know my credit limit when I started, I wasn't attached to anything. It was just $2,500, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I had no credit history. I had no attachment to apartment, car, anything. It was the very first time. So you'll get pretty low credit if you're starting out for the very first time. Request for new credit. There's a thing called a hard check and a soft check. Hard check is when you're applying for a credit card. They need to see where your credit limit's at, where your credit score is. But then there's also certain things that require just a credit inquiry. Sometimes if you apply for a job, they'll be like, hey, what's your credit? Just out of pure curiosity of them. And that's called a light check. So that won't impact your score. Too many hard checks back to back will negatively impact your score a little bit. And then assortment of credit. Like we said earlier, diversity of credit. Creditors like when you have more things than just credit card, just a car loan, just a house payment. And it makes up the final 10% of the score. So next is APR. This is the last big topic. If you don't know what APR is, it is just the annual percentage rate. So it's the yearly interest generated by some charged to borrowers or paid to investors. So when you sign up for a credit card, they're legally required to tell you what that rate is. And for first-time credit card owners, it'll be a lot higher than if it were someone that's more experienced, more tenured in having credit and having debt. It provides consumers with the bottom line number that can be compared among lenders, credit cards, or investment products. So any credit card website you go to, like Credit Karma, that's a big one, but there's a lot of apps you can go to just search credit cards. They'll all have the comparative APRs. So some are going to be really good, some are going to be not so good. And if you see one that you think is insane, it probably is, and you shouldn't go for it. How does it work? It's expressed as an interest rate, as a percentage. It calculates the principal paid each year by taking monthly payments and fees into account. So as we see in the formula there, fees plus interest paid over the life of the loan, over the loan amount, and then over the number of days in a loan term, times 1 year, times 100, and that gets you that percentage. So what are different types of APR? So there's 4 different ways that an APR can be affected, being balance transfer, cash advance, penalty, and purchase. The most, I guess, common one is penalty, because if people can't make their payments on time, then there is an extra penalty percentage associated with that card. Cash advance is like a cash transaction that's not directly related to the card. So you can pull money from a credit card, you can pull cash at an ATM, but there'll be a fee. Casino chips, lottery tickets, dollars, foreign currency. Balance transfer is when you move balance from one credit card to another, which I didn't even know you could do till you research it. But let's say you have Capital One and you owe $1,000 there, and you have your Apple card and you have like $200. You can transfer some of the debt from one card to the other. And if this one has a high APR, you can actually reduce the amount of interest you're paying by moving it to that other card. And then last but not least, purchase APR. Let's say you haven't been able to pay off the full balance of your debt. Every time you make an additional purchase, there will be some sort of associated interest with it. Really quick, just quick resources. If you haven't heard of it, SEO is really good. It's an internship prep program for students of diverse backgrounds. You can apply anyway, even if you're not from a diverse background. And then if it asks you where you heard about SEO, make sure you enter Sebastian Rodriguez. He's the one that told me about this. It's a really good opportunity. So if y'all want, go ahead and scan it. It is really helpful. There's a lot of networking, a lot of internship opportunities that you can get from this. And then one more opportunity, MLT. Basically, it's another internship program for students of diverse backgrounds. So if y'all want to go ahead and scan that as well. It's called Management Leadership for Tomorrow. It's similar to SEO, but it's just another thing that you can get involved in. And then some current events of the week, of the month, current events in general. So Reddit was announced, kind of everyone thought it was like a little meme thing when it came out. Was meant to start at $34 a share. That was the valuation at launch. Share price doubled, which is insane. So at close, it was at 65.11. I believe I took that yesterday. So it's up another 8%. Did anyone buy Reddit when it came out? Did anyone actually try to get into it? One person, two, three. Okay. How has that return been for y'all? Yeah, so it's still growing, I think. It'll be one fun one to watch. Another interesting one, Truth Social. So Truth is Trump's little social media platform. It actually boosted his net worth to 6.5 billion and rocketed him to the top 500 wealthiest individuals, which is insane that like a stock or company could do that. So like it says, prices surged on its first day of trading, and I believe he can now cover bail. So as y'all know, he's in really sticky court case, but this helped him quite a bit. So regardless of how you feel about him, it's kind of funny. Then one last current event. So Visa, MasterCard settled a long-running antitrust suit over swipe fees with merchants. So relating to credit cards, all that means is that fees would decline over the next 5 years. We, the consumer, would benefit. So what does that even do? Merchants had to pay credit and debit card fees called interchange fees. So I remember at my high school, I went to Central Catholic. We had to pay for lunch with a credit card, right? And sometimes if we paid with a certain card, they would add an extra interest because the system they use required that they pay an additional fee for using the card. And it's cheap, it's normally like 50 cents to $1, but that still adds up over time, depending on how many times you use it. Like if I want to eat lunch every day over the course of a month, that's an extra $30 maybe that I have to pay just for trying to eat lunch at school. Banks were expected to absorb a large part of this revenue loss, and it means that less fees are being passed on to us. So we're benefiting from this, which is always a good thing. Now I'll hand it over to Professor Sweet for the sweet spot. Thank you all for listening.
All right, give me a second. All right, so I've had some students ask me about this, so I thought I'd just do this as a presentation. So there's a saying, I'm a musician, that was my first degree was in music, and there's a saying a musician is that practice doesn't make perfect, only perfect practice makes perfect. Have you ever heard that before? So maybe other people use it. But so when I retired from USAA, I realized I'd worked here 23 years and I never took a day of sick leave. And I thought, wow, that's really great. And then I thought about it and so that's really stupid because I was sick some days and I came in anyway. But I discovered I had something I even have a t-shirt that says this. Non-negotiables with a K. I thought that was my own invention, but then there's other people on the internet that use that same phrase, but non-negotiable. So I discovered going to work, no matter how sick I was, on a non-negotiable, and I discovered it was really stupid. And I never decided to make that a non-negotiable. So when I retired from USA, I said, I'm gonna have non-negotiables, but I'm gonna pick them. I'm not gonna have them just come to me. So what are non-negotiables? So for me, some of y'all know it's like ride a bike every day. That's a non-negotiable. I'm gonna do that. So I was thinking, someone was asking me, so if you went to college, what would you do differently now? So I have some non-negotiables I would do as a freshman. So my freshman year, the first semester, first thing I would do is Bloomberg Market Concepts. How many of y'all done that? You did it your freshman year too, didn't you? So Larissa was on the ball on that one. So the fall semester, the spring semester, I would do the Capital IQ certification. I mean, yeah, so I'd start with those. Who's done the Capital IQ certification? So I would do those two. So I'll put them down here so you can see. It's really hard to type with the thing and this thing in my hand. Wow, with one hand, and that's not how you spell cap. So I learned those things. Why are those so important? Well, longer market concepts and Capital IQ. So your freshman year, you got to figure out where is the data, and that's where the data is. Then you got to figure out how to bring it in to a spreadsheet. All right. Now I don't know Power BI and Tableau like Wayland does. That's another way to manage the data, but it's hard to get access to those software packages. So Excel is not a bad place to start. So I would do that. The other thing I would do, and I can't get more students involved. Last Monday, we only had 2 students show up, but dashboard team, I would definitely be starting that my freshman year. You don't have to join my team. We're writing a blog every Monday, but I would definitely start doing that my freshman year. So what you need to do is sit down once a week, non-negotiable. So what does non-negotiable mean? So you've seen people my age that are a lot bigger than I am because they haven't exercised. And why haven't they exercised? Because one day they woke up and what did they say? I don't feel like it. What does non-negotiable say? You don't care. All right. So I'm a streak person. I believe in streaks. You start a streak and then you don't stop the streak because you don't want to kill the streak. So I've gone nine years on a bike. Guess why I'm going to ride a bike tomorrow? Because I want to make it to 10. All right. It's a great motivator. Dashboard meetings. You should start a streak. How many weeks in a row do you do your dashboard team? So our team does it every Monday from 2 to 3 or 2:30 to 3:30. Why is that important? So some students stop showing up. Why? Because it gets redundant. But that's the point. It gets redundant because markets go in cycles. So you see that every week and the cycle hasn't changed. What's the advantage of the dashboard team? Who's going to be the first person to notice the cycle's changing? Your dashboard meeting, right? And I saw this at USA. I'd write an article every Friday. Yeah, it got redundant. But then you start noticing, like especially coming out of 2008, 2009, what are we looking for? The bottom of the market. If you're in it every week, you start noticing things. You're not in it every week, you miss obvious things. So that's really, really important. I would do that my freshman year. The next thing is podcasts. So I have several podcasts I like for your freshman year that I think are really, really important. You can look on my book reading list. There's several of them. I like Masters in Business. I think that's really, really good. I like the Investors Field Guide. Those 2 are really good. They're interviewing famous people in finance, but they're not too technical. So I would start with some like that. There's some other ones out there. The key is not, so here's part of the problem you're going to have is that there's millions of them. And so some students don't get anything done because there's too many things to do. But forget about that. You pick the 2 that you're going to listen to every week and you do those. Now, if you find a better one, you can substitute. So the problem's going to be is you're looking for the 50 to listen to because you don't have that much time. All right. So make it a non-negotiable. You're going to listen to 2 podcasts a week and you just keep that going. And I do The Economist. I think they have a student version. Someone was telling me they do. That's not too expensive. I do the Economist every single week. That's a non-negotiable for me. I've read every article but one. And why didn't I read the one article? It was an article on how vultures eat their prey. And I got one sentence in, is like, I don't care about that. So that one wasn't important to me. It's kind of grotesque. So I didn't read that one. Are there others beside the Economist? I'm not a big fan of the Wall Street Journal, but that could be one. Pick yours. I like the Financial Times better than the Wall Street Journal, but you pick your one. I like the Economist because they cover the entire world. They have really good articles on finance, on businesses, but they cover the entire world. So you know what's going on around the entire world. So I would do that my freshman year. I would also obviously get involved in the investment society. So you got to start building your network, but the dashboard team is a great way to do it. Come to the investment society, meet some people, say, hey, I'm starting this dashboard team. We're meeting every Monday at 3 o'clock. We're going to look at what the market did the last week. You can get my spreadsheet and update it yourself. That's how you learn the Bloomberg with the Bloomberg market concepts. You can create your own spreadsheet, look at your own numbers, but you got to get, if you did that your freshman year, your first interviews, you will sound smarter than 99.999% of freshman finance majors, beyond a doubt. All right, I'm sorry, I teach people that are juniors in finance, never traded a stock, don't know about interest rates, don't know about, some really pretty basic stuff, and they're juniors. You want to get to that point your freshman year, and it's pretty easy to do. So your sophomore year, that's when you're going to about to have your first finance class, right? And that's one that I strongly recommend. You start listening to business breakdowns every week. How many of you listen to that podcast? I got a few of y'all hooked on it. It's really, really good. I heard one this last week that was just incredibly excellent podcast. I haven't heard a bad one yet. There's some I don't care about because it's nothing I can trade on. It's some non-public kind of thing. Like they did one on Bitcoin. I was like, yeah, skip to the next one because I just don't care. But almost all of them have been really, really good. And then business breakdown and tie it to Capital IQ and Bloomberg. So you're listening to business breakdown, you hear a company, say, okay, I'll listen to that on Monday. So that can substitute from your podcast from your freshman year. I'm going to listen to that on Monday. And then Tuesday, I'm going to come into the Bloomberg lab. I'm going to pull in stuff from Bloomberg and Capital IQ on that company. There's your 2 hours for the week. Can you handle 2 hours outside of class? Makes a lot of sense. So business breakdown. And then you have your interns. Do you need to do intern after your freshman year? Is that a thing? You did? It was a finance intern? No. So it's tough but after your sophomore year, are you going to do an intern? Absolutely. So that's when you start interviewing, your sophomore year and getting into that. Your junior year, you're going to find another podcast. So I'd almost say switch podcasts every year. That's when you're going to start getting into your upper level classes. That's when you're going to start running for officers in the investment society. That's when you're going to start doing stuff outside of class, teaching yourself to do stuff. Bloomberg, Cap IQ. When do you start doing coding though? How many are learning coding, Python or SQL or those kind of things? Are you learning it or just kind of testing? So the key is, are you applying it into something? So you got to find, we're talking about doing a dashboard, but using Yahoo Finance to do it. You can do that with Python. There's a program out there that you can do that with. You've got to somehow be learning Python. So like with Waylon, he was using Tableau at work. That's a huge advantage, isn't it? And that's a huge advantage with your internship. So it might actually influence which interns you do, is what will you be using on the job. And as much you can do coding, or you can do Tableau or Power BI. So you might ask that in an internship. What you don't want is some old guy like me who's hiring you because he or she can't do basic Excel. That's not a good internship. So what kind of manager do you want in your first few jobs? You want someone who scares the life out of you. And when they talk, you're like, I don't have a clue what they're talking about. That's the person you want. Because you can't learn coding in your free time. Right? You probably could have learned Tableau in your free time, but was it easier doing it on the job?
It's easier, but I learned it in school and I kind of applied it. But I learned the Power BI dashboard in my free time this last weekend.
All right, so I guess it's possible. You mean, I think Python might be a bigger issue. You're not applying it, because if you're not applying it, you're just gonna forget it. And how many times can you learn hello world in Python and, you're not going any further. So, so your junior, sophomore year, junior year, you gotta start doing that. And that's when you start running the officers section. So one thing I've been pushing and we haven't had it yet, and this is where I think we gotta start doing this, is the videos. We haven't had any takers yet, so we have the scholarship this year. One person's gonna do it and they're gonna win the whole thing. $1,000, that'd be kind of nice. But this is when you take what you've learned and you put it into a tutorial video. You got something out there on LinkedIn, a YouTube video that you can show to an employer. So I'm hoping someone will do that. How would you do that? I have videos out there that is horrible quality. Someone could watch and redo them high quality and get into the competition, and it's not that difficult to do. One I think would be really, really interesting is how to build an efficient frontier with 3 asset classes. That would be a piece of cake. I showed my risk management class how to do 2 assets. 3 is not that difficult to do. You could do that in a 45-minute video and be really, really wonderful. There's several that you can do that are pretty basic ones that you can do and build and make it professional. Get it out there on YouTube. The real key is that you're doing stuff outside of class that's using the material you learn in your class, using Capital IQ, using Bloomberg, trying to bring Python into it. I don't know if we figured out how to do Tableau and Power BI at UTSA. Is it possible?
Are you saying it's free for students? 'Cause I know-
Yeah, there's access to it.
Yeah, Tableau is free for students. You have to go online. It's a,
Through the UTSA library?
I don't know if it's through the library, you just literally go to Tableau's website, say I'm a student, and then they have a student. It's the professional version where you just give them the UTSA email and they'll say, oh, you're a student, okay, here's the license.
All right, so Tableau would be a good one to learn because it's something put on your resume. So Capital IQ, probably Tableau. If you go to YouTube, Capital IQ has a wonderful tutorial from the Corporate Finance Institute. That'd be another thing to add to your non-negotiables. Do an hour of that a week and learn it. You got to get this stuff on your resume. Once you learn this stuff, then you can start applying them in class. So you become the hero of your class. You're a team project, which we hate team projects, right? I love that cartoon. This lady says, when I die, I want my team to be my pallbearers so they can let me down one last time. I mean, that's just the way it feels, right? People aren't contributing. But if you know Bloomberg Capital IQ, you can sit in your team and you can say, hey, I can get all that data. I can get it in a second. You become the hero of your team and you get a better score and you get to apply things. That's what I would have done. I wasn't engaged. I was an accounting major, music major. In music, I was real engaged. We did all kinds of things out of class. That's the nature of the process. Why did we create the investment society? Because that's what our founder discovered. All these other degrees, engineering, music, they were getting together outside of class doing stuff. Finance wasn't doing anything. The accountants were even doing stuff, which, as boring as that sounds, the accountants were even getting together and talking accounting stuff, not exciting stuff like finance. And so that's what you want to do, is get engaged outside of class. I would force it. Find people, say we're going to do it, and make it a non-negotiable. Where were you last week? We got to get this together. The reason I do my dashboard the way it is, we write a blog every week. It forces us to put it down in paper, make it precise, so we're not just kind of talking generals. But students asking why would I do, I mean, that's it. Get engaged outside of class. If you put all this together, you're talking 2 to 3 hours a week outside of your class material. Can you handle that? And can you do it every week? So the key is non-negotiable. I'm going to listen my sophomore year. I'm going to listen to business breakdown every week. Could you handle that? And if you did that, you'd have a huge advantage over the competition when it comes, especially your sophomore year, because you've only had 1 class in finance. You listen to business breakdown every week, you've had essentially 3 classes in finance. You're way advanced versus the others. But if you want some ideas on how to do some of these things, I can certainly get you hooked up. I did a video on how to do a dashboard, and it's a horrible video. Some of you watched it. If you want to redo that video and make it nicer, that would be a good project. So I'm begging for people to do videos because I want to build our YouTube channel we're trying to build here and get people in there. We're trying to build our podcast as well. We got like 70 people looked at this last one, so we're trying to build these things up. But also, it's something you can put on your resume that this thing is you. But if you have questions about this, what you can do, definitely come talk to me. All right, that's it for me.
Alrighty, so, non-negotiables, guys, get that started in. And don't just keep it to yourself, right? Spread it out to your friends. It's good to share valuable information. Moving on to the announcements we have. There we go. Moving on to the announcements we have, of course, we have elections coming up in I believe it was 24th, 27th, the last week of April. We're gonna have the elections, right, on Wednesday, same time. And all our positions are open, like I mentioned, at the start of the meeting. So we have, president open, director of operations. Director of operations is essentially, vice president, kind of magic. There we have the description, right? Manages organization calendar. They manage the membership roster, collaborate with the director of public relations to manage the alumni database, as well as, keeping alumni here with us. And then we have the director of finance, essentially treasurer, right? Developing the budget, managing our budget, right? Like approving expenses, like, hey, we want to have pizza this meeting. See how much we have for expenses, and if we can, if it's a good idea. And we have director of investment research. They're essentially Nathan's job, right? Leading presentations, having a criteria set up of what we're going to do for the semester during general meetings, right? Like when we had Investing 101, building a database, right? It's up to you, the investment research, right? Like what path they want to take for our members. And then we have public relations, which is, reaching out to companies, Asian your public relations, right? Reaching out to companies, SWBC, Victory Capital, essentially building a network, right? With all of other corporations outside. Hey, we want y'all to come speak to our members, about investments, things that you've done that, seem like a good idea, right? That's essentially public relations. We also have director of outreach, right? That's planning socials, right? Before it used to be called social chair. So director of outreach, planning socials, right? Like, hey, we want to do top goals. Of course, being approved by the treasurer, right? We don't want to spend $1,000 on one social, right? But, planning activities, getting our members together. And then director of marketing, that's essentially, like our keeping up to date our Instagram page, putting out announcements on our Telegram. And then we have director of education. We haven't seen too much of our director of education, Colin, kind of the path that we moved on to with the video classes, right? The next semester, we're thinking about bringing back to what we used to have, right? Before last semester. And all these positions are one semester, right? So keep in mind your schedule, your school schedule. And then for president, director of operations, and director of finance, those are 1-year terms. So you do need to stick with it from the fall all the way to the spring. And the other ones are going to be rotating each semester. And if y'all are interested in running a position, scan the QR code, don't be afraid to run for a position, right? We're going to stay down here as well. All the MDs, if y'all are interested in talking one of us, like, hey, what does your position consist of? Like, how hard was it, or how easy was it, or any challenges that came across, right? Or if you want to tell them, like, hey, I'm really, if you were to talk to Adrian, hey, I'm really soft spoken, kind of nervous, right, talking to other people. Regardless of that, do you think it would still be a viable position for me to hold, right? After all, a lot of communication is done through emails. But yeah, make sure to run for a position, right? And we are gonna require you to have those presentations ready for you. So we're essentially gonna ask for you guys to have 2 slideshows if you decide to run for 2 positions. 2 slideshows, one for your top position, and then for your second top position, right? It's gonna be 2 slides, 2 simple slides, kind of stating a little bit about who you are and why you want to run for that position. So for first one that you want to choose, second one you want to choose, and then any other ones that you want to run for after those first top 2 that y'all have, we are just gonna put you in the ballot just to, save y'all a little bit of time here. That way we don't have an hour and a half long meeting of just people presenting up here on why they want to run those positions. And if you do run for president or VP, you can only run for 2. So you can run for president and then move on to either, if you really wanted to, VP, and you can only run for those 2. If you wanted to run for VP, you can only run for 1 more of the semesterly positions. That way, we don't have one person show up for every single one of them, hearing his same presentation over and over again, as well as to, kind of limit. So we see here, we will have the elections on the 24th, and that's the last Wednesday of April. And we are gonna require you to have your presentations ready for you on the 21st, right? So Sunday midnight, have it all turned in. We will do an announcement, right? Prior, a week before, a couple of days before, right? The weekend before, like, hey, like if y'all are gonna run for elections, go ahead and put on your presentation, upload your PowerPoint to us, right? Send it via email. So moving on to kind of like what our agenda is for the rest of the month. April 3rd, next week, we'll actually have British Petroleum coming over to see us. I know they canceled us I think it was February 19th. They had to cancel on us, right? It was a Thursday. Right now we have them scheduled for, coming Wednesday, learning about British Petroleum. If y'all were here for our Valero, when Valero came by, kind of a similar aspect, right? And then we do have an SWBC tour at 3 p.m. on April 9th, right? So if y'all are interested in that, come talk to us, say, any details we have. I know we will have, we won't necessarily have transportation for you, but if y'all want to carpool, I'm sure if any of our officers are going, we'd be more than happy to, as well as, carpooling with one of our other members. And then we will have our spring formal on May 1st. So May 1st, we'll have a spring formal. We will have Olive Garden for y'all. I know 2 semesters we held Olive Garden. So, there's gonna be plenty of food there. We are planning to hold it at the university room. So, pretty well-sized room. And that's when we actually are gonna give out our scholarships, what I'm gonna announce later, the Sergio Silva Scholarship, as well as our EMBA scholarships for the video teachings. Now, quick update on the market watch updates. If you are here and you're in the top 3, I know Cody's here. Congrats, Cody, for being in the top 3. Miguel's here, John's here. Stand up, give applause for them if y'all are here. Awesome. Congrats. And I've been hovering over that nice finish. Awesome. And remember, if you stay in that top 3, you're gonna get, a prize money award. So hopefully y'all can stay there. Now, talking about more on the Sergio Silva Outperform Award, applications will be due April 5th. So that's next week, Friday. If you scan the QR code, it'll give a viewable Google Doc that essentially says, what's required of you to send in and where to email it to. You will send it to Professor Sweet. And it's only 1 question. You can make it as long as you want from what I understood, but you don't want to bore the person reading it. So you want to be careful with that. But yeah, anybody can apply to the scholarship, MDs, members. If I remember off the top of my head, the question is, what type of impact you had for the investment society and what, positive things you've done for it and improved. Now, there is Professor Sweet emailed me on a webinar that is being held next April 7th It's on a Thursday at 7 p.m. Central. And it's over the CFA level 2 and level 3, it's titled Hall of Fame webinar. So it's gonna be a webinar going over, if I remember correctly, they were interviewing the 2 people who have gotten a perfect score in the CFA. So, they're talking about like, what tips and tricks they have for us, what type of things you should probably prepare. Maybe kind of more like mentality as well. So definitely check that out. If you scan the QR code, it leads it to their website. And I will be posting these updates in the Telegram afterwards, right? That way y'all can sign up for them. And in the chance that you can't make it to these webinars, if you sign up, you will actually get the video recording afterwards sent into your email, right? So you can check it out after, right? Because I know some of us have class Thursdays at 7:30. And we actually have started our Costa Rica GoFundMe page, right? Well, we want to fund laptops given to where we're going in Costa Rica, right? We want the kids to be more engaged in actually like learning computer technology, right? If you scan the QR code, it will lead us to our GoFundMe. And if you can't donate, it's perfectly fine, right? We're college students, we all understand. But if you do want to donate, you could donate by spreading it by word of mouth, right? We'd really appreciate it. Our goal is to buy, I believe, roughly six laptops, right? To give them, as well as any other extra funds. Of course, we'll give it to them in the things that they need. And of course, RSVP for the formal. There's some questions up there saying, are you willing to go? Do you have any food allergies as well? I know we had some food allergies, people that were allergic to certain food items. So do fill out the formal RSVP. It's going to be on May 1st, 7 p.m. There's also descriptions in the Google form, right? If you want to screenshot and keep a remembrance on it. Either way, we'll give y'all updates as that date gets closer. And you can bring a +1, but you need to have your dues paid. So as long as you have your dues paid, you can bring a +1. That's perfectly fine, and you'll be able to attend. No problems there. Just make sure they bring an empty stomach, right, for the Olive Garden. And of course, like every meeting, we are selling our polos, 25 for non-members, 20 for members. Pretty sick polos. I've had this one for roughly 2.5 years since the first time we ever bought the polos. Still rocking it strong, right? I haven't pulled any threads, thank goodness. And we are also selling our $20 t-shirts, right? Down here, just meet up with Nima. And of course, we're also taking payments for our dues in case you haven't paid for dues. And yeah, thank you very much. MDs are going to stay back down here if y'all have any questions for them, right? If you want to run for a position in elections, right? Or even if you want to just talk about simple things about, hey, how should I do my PowerPoint? How did you do your PowerPoint? What will really reach the masses? I hope y'all have a good night.